Hey guys, welcome to Hunt Shoot Offroad, and we've got another conversation with episode 2, and today we're having a conversation with a dog trapper. So I'd like to welcome to the conversation Chris. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So you've got a YouTube channel as well. It's a dogger's life.
That's
Hopefully.
correct, yeah.
And you also run a commercial or professional trapping and dog shooting business as well, don't you?
Yes, mate. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Been running one by myself now for about 3.5 years. Before that, I was with a partner in crime, Treno, as you might see on the videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Treno and I started the business, probably nearly 10 years ago now, I suppose. And just sort of went on from there, and then eventually sort of things come up where I had to move over this way, and he sort of runs his business over there, and then on bigger contracts we'll join up and work together.
Yeah, awesome. Mate,
Yeah.
I do like, you seem to have like a mad little vlogger set up there as well with your little fire in the background.
Yeah.
It's quite trendy.
I thought it'd be pretty cool, but it's bloody hot. I'm sweating here.
You might have to take the jumper off.
Yeah, bloody oath. It's going pretty well. I just got some new wood on the weekend, so.
So did I. Actually, I went out to my dad's and he chopped me some wood, got this iron bark stuff. So
yeah, cool.
It should go pretty good over winter. Cooked a few marshmallows and whatnot.
Yeah. No, that's a pizza oven. Actually, we built that. It's out of an old. It's an old oil drum. You know the oil drums that you used to have on the back of the houses to run the old oil heaters.
Oh no, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so we got it at a farm clearance sale as an oil heater. I wanted to build a pizza oven, and I thought that'd look pretty cool. So yeah, we cut the top out of it and made that into a door, and then put a flue on it and put some heat bricks in the bottom. She's cool. Works
awesome.
Well.
Nice going.
Yeah.
And so I stumbled across your channel only like a week ago. I just was I've just started trapping myself. Okay, when I say I've just started trapping, I bought my first 3 traps, and I done a fair bit of research. Now I've been out, done a little bit of trapping with another guy, one of my dad's friends, and he traps locally at sort of within an hour of Brisbane. So he's working quite close. He just does it for the love of it, for the fun.
Yeah.
I learned a bit off of him, and spoken with another guy, went out shooting at a place out at Burke, and he was full on into, he was saying he's shot something like 67 dogs in the 11 years that he's been on the block, and he hates them. It's like his passion to shoot dogs and all that sort of stuff like that. And so I just was doing a bit of research to try and see and learn what I needed to do to make some changes. And you just popped up in my feed, and I was like, yeah, watch this. And mate, what an entertaining video. It was just, I don't want to ruin it for anyone. I did share it on my YouTube channel there because it was really good. But you know, you're doing a fair bit of trapping, and you do a little bit of educational stuff there, and of course there's a couple of funny stuff that happens when people go out on their hunting trips and whatnot. You know, I saw Treno dared you to ride the piping hot quad bike, black seat, sitting in the sun.
And, it took me a while to get over that. It was actually quite hot. I didn't think it would be that hot, but it was sitting in the sun for a while. So yeah, it was quite hot. But yeah, no, we just try and have a bit of fun while we're out there. There is a little bit of downtime, as you probably know. Now, after you sort of check your traps, there is a little bit of downtime before, you know, the afternoons. We try and go for a bit of a howl in the afternoons as well. So between checking our traps and going for a bit of a howl, there's sort of a little bit of downtime. So we always have a bit of fun, go for a swim or something. But yeah, the idea of the video is just sort of come up. For some reason, when we were first starting out, I always had this idea that I'd start a magazine. And I said to Treno, I'm going to start, you know, a magazine and talk to other trappers and things around the place and put little stories in there and stuff, and call it It's a Dogger's Life. And then, you know, of course, that never eventuated because you just get so busy with everything else, trying to, you know, promote your business, trying to drum more business up, trying to do your work as well. So it's sort of all got left behind. And then eventually when I thought, bugger it, I'll start recording a few, you know, a bit of what we do. and start putting it out there and just seeing how it goes, you know. So that's how it all started. It is just a bit of fun. It's a bit of a hobby for me. Like, I just like the idea of being able to share what we do and try and sort of share our knowledge without, you know, having formal videos, so to speak, where you just sit there and say, this is how you do this, this is how you do this.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and those videos, they sort of already exist. I think Pest Smart got some pretty good videos there for like specific trapping things and that. So, I mean, and it's funny, I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people will refer you to those videos. Like, I know Western Trapping Supplies, they'll tell you to go there. It's one of their first point of calls. And a few of those other mates that I spoke about, they'll say that, you know, they're pretty good videos. But you know, it's not too bad because they've been done by a few different people. So that's so you get a few different you know, methods and all that sort of stuff. So that's not too bad. But they're a bit dry. You know, they're not entertaining, which was what really you know, I thought that's pretty good. But it's interesting that you said that you wanted to start a magazine, because I guess you know, magazines really are dead now, and it's even DVDs are gone by the wayside. So that's sort of why I started my blog, was a similar thing, because I wanted to sort of publish some content that I thought was, you know, there's a bit of a void in that market. And and so I did a similar thing, and then of course I just slowly moved over to YouTube. And it's funny, I enjoy making the videos, I enjoy making the content, but I hate editing, and I hate it.
Right.
But I actually probably get nearly more traffic through my blog, and I don't really even attend to it. So it's kind of, but I hate writing. So it's one of those things where that, you know, you just try and do what you love, not what you hate, because otherwise you just don't do anything. So
yeah, exactly. And it's finding the time too, because as you know, it all takes a lot of time. You know, especially for us, we sort of, when we're out there, we're actually physically getting paid to be out there as well. So the last thing we want to do is miss out on some dogs that we could have got because I was there filming or something like that, you know.
yeah, that's right.
Or miss a set of tracks or something like that. So it's very hard at the moment to sort of get enough footage to make a bit of a video about it, as well as do your job. And then, you know, it's almost like I need a full-time cameraman with me, you know, just follow, because there's so much stuff that you miss out on too, because you, like, I physically, you know, just carry my phone around and film off my phone. So it's, you know, you'll be doing something and you think, oh, geez, that would have been funny. I wish I'd have been filming. And then you'll be filming and you'll be like, this is going to be boring, you know?
That's right. Yeah, you'd almost just got to wear the GoPro and just have it cooking the whole time. Otherwise, it's really hard. But it's funny you say that, because my best videos have actually been filmed on the phone, not on the, like, I've got a DSLR camera up the top here, and that's what I do most of my recording with my you know, my reloading stuff and all that sort of stuff like that. But man, it takes so much time to set up, and you've got to get the lighting right. It's just, I just find I have more fun just filming on the phone. Like, if I just get the phone out, it's just like, boom, start recording, and it's like done and dusted, and then I just rip it off there later. So you know, it's on auto, and it's like, if I don't get it on the phone, it's more likely I just won't get anything at all anyway. So
that's right.
And so are you trapping full time, or this is a bit of a side gig for you?
Yeah, no. So I at the moment, so for the last 3.5 years, I've been working for the Moreton Bay Regional Council. So I do full-time trapping, pest animal management for them. And then, as I said, on the bigger contracts, I'll still go out west and do those bigger ones with Trent. So basically here we're looking after all the pest management. So responding to customer requests. So the general public will ring up with a complaint about a dog or being attacked by a wild dog, or feral pigs digging up their garden or something like that. And then so we'll respond with whatever sort of management we can.
I guess that interesting question would be, how close into the city are these events occurring? Like, are they much closer in than people would imagine? Or
yeah, absolutely, mate. Like, we get wild dogs all through this whole region. So our region runs from basically camp just south of Sanford. So you know, there's sort of a line from Sanford. I think it goes down to like Strathpine, then across to obviously the coast, and then out to Mount Glorious, and and then right up sort of just east of Kilcoy, and then obviously back to the coast down there. But so we get wild dogs throughout the whole region. So there's wild dogs running, you know, through just out the back of Strathpine, Samford, you know, all through that area.
Well, I watched a video on YouTube actually. They're talking about tracking wild dogs, and they put a tracker on this wild dog that they caught, and it was all but living in suburbia, and it was just living in like the equivalent of you know, Toohey Forest, which is in Brisbane, and it was just like going around, and they were like, how can this dog be so active and no one knows? And basically they just come to the conclusion that people don't realize it's wild. They just think it's someone's pet running around on the street. They go, oh, there's that dog again coming down, you know, running down the street, and that no one thinks much of it. People throw up food even almost to that point. So
and that's a big problem here as well. Like, people just don't understand the damage that they can do, you know, and they sort of, in a little bit, tend to harbour the dogs because they are feeding them and, you know, trying to protect them, and they just don't understand. That's the biggest issue with that sort of situation. But yeah, they're definitely there. You know, anywhere, as I explained to people, anywhere that they leave wildlife corridors, there's obviously wildlife, and with wildlife, unfortunately, you've got the predators. So you've got foxes and wild dogs following those the native wildlife around.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, let's get into some of the more exciting things to do with trapping. Now we will cover a bit of trapping and a bit of shooting because I'm into both. And what are the seasons like? What's the cycle that these are going through? Can you do this all year round, or is it just, you know, you can only sort of go leading up to breeding season, or like how? Which I know what's interesting is it aligns with the deer rut, I believe, the
breeding season,
the breeding season. But can you hunt them all year round, or is it like just 6 months of the year?
No, you can sort of hunt or trap dogs most of the year round. During the breeding season is actually the best time to hunt them, as far as calling them and things like that, because you'll get a lot more response during the breeding season. So the breeding season's changed quite a bit over the years, just with the influence of domestic dog in the bloodline. So the old, you know, dingo breeding season used to sort of run about now. So the old timers used to always say it was started around Easter, and then it had sort of run out sort of 3 months after that, the actual dingo breeding season.
Well, that's the cycle I've been pretty much told. That sort of they start on in about April, and then they move right, you know, and they'll drop their pups, I think, in about June or something like that. Was what I've been sort of alluded to.
Yeah, and that's sort of the general, you know, as I said, typical dingo bloodline breeding season. But we've found, you know, over the years that that's sort of lengthened quite a bit, you know, a couple of months either side of that as well, where we're getting dogs breeding a lot earlier in the year, and then obviously a lot later in the year as well.
And is that dependent on weather a little bit as well? Does that fluctuate that?
I don't think it's as much weather as it is, you know, as I said, the influence of the domestic dog breed, but also the food, availability of food. You know, like your domestic dogs, if they're doing well in a good condition and you're looking after them, they'll come in season nearly all year round. And so we're finding that the wild dogs, if they're in a good, you know, an easy food source location, they'll sort of come into season for quite a long time. So they're having pups for a lot longer, which is sort of changing the dynamics of things quite a bit. Yeah, but let's go back to your original question. You can sort of hunt and trap dogs most of the year now without any problems.
So,
sorry, mate.
So, I guess if you're hunting all year round, is there different methods that you use throughout the season? Say, let's talk about shooting. What's methods that you would use for shooting all year round versus the methods you would maybe use for trapping all year round?
Yeah. So As far as shooting goes, yeah, as I said, I try and sort of concentrate my shooting or calling dogs during this time of year. So I spent a lot of time with an old fella called Les Keys, who is down in Alban Elbow sort of region. And he grew up around that area calling dogs, him and his old mate Crockett, who they, went to primary school together at Old Duck Creek or something like that it's called, which is near Alban Elbow in northern New South Wales. So he always used to tell me that the best time to call dogs is the first full moon after Easter. So I sort of concentrate my time when I'm hunting dogs as far as calling them in those times. The other times a year,
that's the equinox or something, I think, isn't it? That first full moon near Easter?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I'd have to look into that. Would be interesting to know, because then that would probably have some kind of meaning,
Yeah. Well, definitely most animals, as you probably know, will sort of work off full moons, So we find that dogs will be travelling around a lot more a week before and a week after the full moon is when you'll get the most action and attacks and things like that. So that might have something to do with it as well. So. But so as far as that, and then obviously later on in the year, you've got a lot more sort of coming up around Christmas time. You've got younger dogs on the ground, so you can sort of concentrate calling then as well, because those younger dogs will come out to a call quite easily.
So although you're hunting all year round, the target animal is a different animal.
Yes.
So you're hunting the younger juvenile pups and teenagers, or whatever you want to call them, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because they're a bit dumber.
Yeah. They just haven't had the association with humans yet, so they're a lot more curious and things like that. Whereas the older dogs during this time of year are nearly very similar to a younger dog, because they've got one thing on their mind, so so they'll come out a lot easier this time of year than other times of year as well to a call. Yeah.
Well, that probably leans towards one of the things I've heard that you can get a dog on heat. You just chain it to a tree, and it'll bring wild dogs in from all over town.
Yeah.
Is that not as good as it's alluded to be, or it can be that good?
Oh, it is, mate. A wild dog in heat, will bring male dogs for miles. Like we often use a dog with us when we're trapping. So we use it as a scent dog. So we'll take it with us, and let her walk along a trail and mark out where other dogs have obviously been. She'll sort of go along and mark those areas.
Yeah.
So our success rate is like a lot higher when she's in season. So she'll go along being in season and mark those areas as well.
And obviously that in heat urine is like super potent for those dogs to really want to come in on it.
It's just got obviously a natural. There's natural
hormones in it, or
hormones into it that'll bring them in, and they'll come for miles. They'll be able to smell it for miles. I think I'm not 100% sure on the science of this, but once again, I just sort of go off what I've sort of experienced and what I've been told over the years. But that actual hormone that is in a bitch in heat actually only lasts in a urine for about 12 hours, and then it subsides. So then, a lot of people think, well, I'll keep that urine and use it from then on, sort of thing. But that urine just turns into normal bitch urine after about 12 hours.
Okay, the potency of it like really deteriorates. The half-life of it is like really quick or whatever or something.
Yeah. And the old fellas that sort of explained this to me said it's sort of because that's nature. If you imagine a male dog chasing after a female dog as she's urinating as she's traveling along, if she urinates in one area, then moves on, and that scent and that hormone stays there, that male dog will just stay there. He won't be able to track her, So
that's okay. Yeah. Or every dog for the next 100 kilometers is going to come in on it.
That one spot.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that sort of makes sense, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So, but you hear that a lot, and that is the best lure you could ever get.
Okay, well that's what I sort of heard. I think from a couple of videos I've watched and all that sort of stuff like that. And,
yeah.
well,
As far as tying them to the tree, though, that's that's sort of, we really try and stay on the ethical side of things, even though what we do is quite controversial. The last thing we want to do is try and give the people that don't understand more ammunition. So
well, and I guess you are at some degree, you're putting your own animal at risk. Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, you could fall asleep and the dog could get attacked, or any number of things like that, I guess. So that is, a good point that I hadn't thought of.
Mm.
And I hadn't put my phone on silent. Better mute that.
Oh, neither have I. Yeah. Yeah, you get a smack for that.
Well, let's talk about lures, because that was something I wanted to discuss with you. So we've talked about female urine. Now, in my kit that I just purchased, so I'll give you a breakdown on my kit that I just purchased, and you can. It's very simple. You did a really good video, actually. I think it was your last upload was what's in your kit, and I thought that was fantastic. It was very timely, actually. So I got a kit. I just bought everything from Western Trapping Supplies because I just had to pay for shipping for one lot, and I bought 3 WTS traps, and I bought the biggest ones they had because I got told bigger is better, but obviously you would use smaller ones where they can fit, and I'm happy to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy the sponges because, from what I understood, that they're not the best. They affect the pressure that goes down on the pan. So I was told to use baking paper or wax paper. I bought a couple of stakes. I think I bought these massive 800 mil stakes, which are way too long. Tried to put them in the ground, and that it took me. I 2 of them I actually had to leave half hanging out the ground, which I know is a problem because obviously the dog gets tangled up on it, and then the swivel can go and you probably bend stuff and all that sort of stuff. But it is in an area really close to where my dad lives, and he's monitoring it, twice a day, so that it shouldn't be an ethical issue with that. And there's a lot of fencing materials there, so I don't think the smell of that is really going to be a problem. And I bought the double stake chain ring, whatever you call it, to go on the end. We welded that on there. I've got a couple of D shackles. I just got them from Bunnings or whatever. I did get the commercial dog urine.
Yeah.
So they told me that they said it's really good because the dog that it's harvested from just eats room meat, so it should taste as close to wild dog urine as possible. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Whether any dog's urine is as good as the others, I don't know. I'm inexperienced. And then I bought a pair of fencing pliers. I bought a pair of gloves for my lures. I bought a pair of gloves for my trap handling. I just got an old, like a painter's sheet to go on the ground when I'm working on the traps. I bought a sieve. Now I'm not happy with the sieve. The sieve is just one of those rectangle ones with the full mesh, and you put the dirt in there, and it just falls straight out onto my mat. So I need something. But man, because I did actually look at the, I can't remember the brand. I think it's I want to say it's like CJS one or something like that. And it's got the slide that comes out the bottom. But man, that thing is like quite expensive. So probably what I'm going to do is just get my angle grinder out, cut slot in one end, and just put a piece of aluminium or piece of tin in there that I can just pull out and use it. And I think that's about it. Pretty much everything you had in your kit was something I had. I probably need a bigger hammer. That's probably something I realised. I've just got this short-handled mallet at the moment, and it's just not heavy enough. I probably need like double the weight to really smash those stakes in. And I don't have anything to get the stakes out, which I know is going to be a problem when I turn up to remove the traps. So I've seen that you can get like that U-Butte crowbar with like a prong on the end that's specifically designed for pulling out the stakes. But I mean, my other mate that he does a bit of trapping, he actually just uses a star picket that's got a big square thing welded on the end that's like 10 mil thick. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not sure actually how he removes them. I didn't see how he removed them, but he just mounts a D shackle to the star picket hole, and obviously quite cheap to manufacture yourself and use. So I don't know. I'm a bit I'm open to suggestions, obviously, with all that sort of stuff like that. But I thought I had enough for the basics. Probably don't have anywhere near enough traps, but I don't have enough experience either. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just got to start off. you know, one trap's enough when you're starting off. Once again, I keep talking about the old fellas, but you know, when you
well, they're the ones that are teaching us, aren't they?
exactly, and you know, I just love sitting around listening to their stories, you know. But they always say you need two things to catch a dog: you need the dog, and you need the trap. So, you know, if you got that, you're halfway there. But yeah, basically, like having your pegs out of the ground. So when you're setting your trap, do you set the chain off to the side?
So I've been taught to set the chain immediately underneath the trap.
Yeah,
that's what I got told to do. But in this scenario, there was a massive, like I'm in some quite ridgy country, like quite hilly, and there's so many rocks, and I literally could not get this stake in more than 2 inches into the ground.
Yeah.
So I just went to the side, maybe 10 inches, and I was able to drive the stake in quite a way. Ultimately, I probably need to shorten the stakes as well, but I'm a bit scared of them pulling out. But that's just, I guess, lack of experience as well.
It is handy having the long stakes for when you get that, you know, that softer ground. I've actually physically had dogs pull, you know, sort of 12, 14-inch stakes straight out of the ground, and they've been 2 stakes put in the ground, crossed over like you're meant to do it, and just in soft, you know, black soil country when it's been wet, and dogs, you know, the chain obviously wasn't quite long enough, and the dog was jumping straight up in the air, and we actually got it on video, and he jumped and pulled the whole trap, the whole pegs and everything straight out of the ground.
Oh, like, so the trap went off and he just jumped out at the same...
No, he had the trap on him, but when we were approaching him to shoot him, he was just, you know, carrying on like they do, and jumped and pulled the trap and pegs and everything straight out of the ground. And that was with big long stakes. So hang on to those stakes, but just get yourself a couple of sort of 12-inch ones. And what I normally do in that situation is put one long one in and one short one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I just was like, you know, the price difference between the long ones and the short ones was next to nothing. I was like, if I need short ones, I'll just cut them down.
Yeah.
But coincidentally, I just had some guy come in and do some retaining wall for me, and he's left me like all these bits of Rio bar, which is exactly the same. So now I just got to go get some nuts, and we'll just weld them on at my dad's. And
you get the best ones are the Flange Nuts. So they're like a normal nut with obviously a flange around the bottom, nearly like a nut off the top of a diner bowl. You know those nuts? They've got a
yes. And you put that on upside down?
No, they sit up the right way. But what that does, it sort of gives your chestnut stake ring a bit of a flat surface to sit on. So when you drive your stakes in, it's just a nice flat surface, and it's a bit wider. So if your chestnut's double stake ring, sometimes they can sort of warp a little bit, and they can pull over just like a normal nut.
Well, that's what I'd wondered, if those double shackle, the double stake rings, if they were prone to opening up. Like, I mean, they look pretty strong, but anything's possible.
Yeah, especially when you're putting say if you got your chestnut double stake ring like that, and you're putting your stakes in on an angle, put them like that, so they're going in opposite directions into the ground.
So I put mine like that, so that they didn't cross over. Is that the right thing to do, as opposed to go like that?
Yeah, there's always different opinions, you know what I mean? It's just however it sort of works. But I always put them, say if it's like that, I'll put them in like that.
Okay. So you got them here, you put one in like that and then one that way.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right.
And also, where your chain hooks onto your double stake ring, have that on one end. A lot of the time people actually put that, where the chain hooks onto the double stake ring in the middle of the 2 pegs.
Ooh, that's where it's going to open up.
Yes, exactly, and it can open up.
I just instinctively put it on the end. That was not even a thought to me. That was okay.
Yeah, so
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to the lures. Where I got really distracted. So I bought the commercial lure because I don't have access to a dog of my own. I got a mate that he reckons he's going to run around, follow his dog, and collect some urine for me. But I can't see that being too entertaining. I've heard you can strap a bottle to like a pole, just put a bit of urine in there, and then your dog will just keep topping it up over and over. And then once it's got a bit in there, it can't help itself. It just, or you put a funnel there.
Yeah. I've seen all sorts of setups like that, and actual posts with a like a bowl around the bottom of them, so the dog goes and urinates. A lot of the commercial lures are pretty good. You buy them from anywhere, and they're all pretty good. Like, they've obviously worked, otherwise they wouldn't have them over here. I've found that the fresher the better. So I seem to only be able to I only keep mine for about 6 months. Obviously, when you are using them, you're only using a pinprick of it. You're not using too much of it.
Yeah, and that's probably something we might just touch on for the listeners is, like, you just want to, like, a little drip. You don't want to go squirt like a whole lot, do you?
No, you just literally need like a matchstick, just get a stick and just dip it in, and then put your lure wherever you're placing your lure.
Wow, that's even less than I got the thing, and I just did a quick little squirt, which probably ran down the tree, maybe 6 inches.
It depends what lure you're using as well. So there's a lot of different lures, and a lot of them are quite offensive. Like, they've got a lot of skunk essence in them a lot of the time.
Oh, so these are some of the non-dog urine. Well, let's talk about what are the different sorts of scents, because I know I've seen on YouTube some people make up some concoctions of, and apparently they just can go off like a bomb too if they get it wrong. Like, I don't know, talking about mincing up kidneys or livers or something. I was like, oh man.
No, there's hundreds of thousands of them probably that people have sort of tried over the years, and to be honest, a lot of them work, because a dog naturally is quite curious. So if they smell something, they'll naturally go and try and investigate what it is. The way I look at it is, so there's lures that are gland based. So what they are is they're actually physically cut out of the dogs, the glands that are cut out of the dogs. So there's lots of glands in every animal, as you probably know.
Well, just like people, I think we've got them in our armpits, in our necks, in our groin, all that sort of stuff like that. Yeah, so same type of thing.
Yeah. So there's gland-based lures. So what people do is cut the glands out of the dogs that they catch, keep them glands, and then add little things to them. I personally love that type of lure. Like, that's probably my go-to lure. 99% of the time, because it's natural and because it comes from, it's fresh, and it also is basically the wild dogs that we're trying to catch, it's out of them, so it's not something that's too foreign.
Yeah, so it's from the territory. Yeah, essentially.
So it's sort of, there's gland-based lures, there's food-based lures, and there's curiosity-based lures, which can be just as simple as like shrimp essence or vanilla essence, or a bit of aniseed, stuff like that.
And so the skunk one, that would be a curiosity lure?
It's more of a curiosity lure, but it's very, very strong. Like, you can they're more of a what they call long distance call with anything that's got skunk in it. So that'll that's quite offensive, and that is one if you ever playing a practical joke on someone and you put a little touch of it on them, it just smells for miles,
I think,
days.
Is there a video of yours with that in there?
Yeah. Trent gets a bit on his shirt in the car. Yeah.
So when they talk about wearing gloves to handle your lures, they're talking about just so you don't get it on yourself, or is it so you don't get the human scent on the lure as well, or is it more just to protect yourself because of how toxic it is?
I think as far as the lure goes, it's more just to protect yourself, because if you get it on your skin, it literally takes hours to scrub off, or different stuff. Like, we've tried tomato sauce, we've tried disinfectant to try and get lure off you. If you ever break a bottle, just throw your gear out, and just start again, because you'll never get the smell out of it.
Oh wow. Yeah, so I bet if you went to sleep, if you had, like Treno, probably if he slept in his swag that night, would he wake up with a wild dog rolling on him? Is it?
Yeah, could do. Probably, yeah. Although the noise that comes out of him when he's asleep is quite full on, so I don't think a dog would even go near him when he's asleep.
Yeah, my dad sounds like a two-stroke chainsaw, big one. It's quite loud.
I'll
So, well,
probably
that's what
snort
I
myself.
see. Yeah, I'm not. If I when I was a bit bigger, I've lost a couple of kilos now. But when I was bigger, man, I had some real problems. I could only sleep on one side, or otherwise I'd snore too aggressively. Not to say that I wouldn't if I slept on that side. So what I was going to do in my so I got a tin box that I put all my stuff in, and I'd been recommended by a guy called Tony who's I think does a lot of training out Gympie Way and all that sort of stuff like that. I met him at the gun range actually by chance, so that was really good to meet him. And he said to get a tin box or get a box to put all your stuff in. He recommended keeping leaves and sticks from the area that you hunt. And because he didn't worry, he goes, don't worry about the trapping dye. Oh, that's what I bought, trapping dye and the wax as well.
Yeah.
And he said, don't worry about that. Just use the tannin from the leaves from the area and just keep that in your box, and that stops any too much scent. And his hot tip then was you lock that with a padlock so that no one can come around and go, oh, check the traps out. And then they're touching the traps, and then you've got to go and boil them up and re-wax them and all that sort of stuff like that. So I thought that was actually a pretty good top tip, actually. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, there's.
So what I was going to say was, so in there, what I want to do is get some like PVC and then pop rivet it to one corner so that the lure doesn't fall over and run the risk of tipping through my box.
Yeah, I'd get a separate box for your lure.
Okay.
All your lures to go in, because even though it's in a sealed container, the smell just still leaches out. And literally, once you boil your traps, and handle them with gloves and everything, do everything after that you don't want any other smells to be near your traps whatsoever.
Okay. All right, might be time to definitely pull them out. Yeah.
I just use like a fish and tackle box for all my lures. So I've just got a couple of fish and tackle boxes with different lures in it that I use. Yeah. So, but yeah, keep them separate to your traps and all your gear. Totally.
All right, so I really should have a box for the traps, a box for the tools. I actually didn't mind your bag you got there for your tools. That was pretty good too.
Yeah.
And then a box for your lures.
Yeah.
But obviously you're moving a huger number of traps too compared to me, so.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's always good to have things separate, because the idea is you want the dog to come to the lure, and if you've got any of that smell whatsoever on that is in your traps, that dog will smell that there's something there, and half the time you'll get your traps dug up because the dog can smell it. And they're quite crafty. They haven't thrived in Australia the way they do with being dumb. So.
No, well, that's interesting. Because I'm going to go, I actually got access to a place that's about an hour and 11 minutes from my door, and I'm in Brisbane. So that was, did a bit of door knocking, and I did what I did was a change of tactics. So, I've tried to get access to places closer, and, it's funny. People just don't really bother to go out, I think is really my opinion, because I went out door knocking, and within an hour and a half of door knocking, I had access to a property to about 3,000 acres. Yeah. And it was so easy. I don't know. Look, I'm 39 now, so I don't look like a young punk, and maybe that gave me a level of trust that wouldn't have been there if I tried to do it 20 years ago. But I just decided, rather than try and be a bit of a, going to chase pigs, which I think can be considered quite Yahoo, I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to go out and tell people that I want to get wild dogs, because I like the thrill of the chase of getting the wild dogs. I haven't got one yet, haven't trapped one, or haven't shot one yet. I've only seen one once. And, but so that was, and literally within an hour and a half of door knocking, I got access to this block. And so I'm going out there this weekend, which is only a little bit away from my dad's place, where I've got the other traps set. And there's wild dogs all through there. There's plenty of sign. Anyway, he told me on the phone, because I phoned him up like 20 minutes before we had this meeting. And he said he saw 5 wild dogs during the week.
Yeah, wow.
He said his dog started barking and ran around the other side of the house. So he went around the other side of the house.
Yeah.
He said, and there's these 2 wild dogs having a scrap, like, 50, 60 meters from the house.
Yeah.
And his 2, like, kelpies are like barking their heads off at it.
Yeah.
He said, as he's standing there watching them, then he looked up, and about another 150 meters away, down on the damn wall, there was 3 other wild dogs looking on.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man. He's like, yeah, you got to get out of here. I was like, oh man. So like, I'm keen to get back out there.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just like, I need to make sure I hit the right places to try and howl them in or get there at the right times and all that sort of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can cover off on a little bit of that at some stage tonight. So that's I'm pretty excited about it because I got access like right at the right time. I probably got access to this place maybe 2 months ago. So I've been out there 3 times now.
Yep.
Saw deer the first day, saw 3 deer, which was pretty cool. But I've seen prints and I've seen like pretty fresh scat for the wild dogs. So they're definitely there. I found one of the dens that they have been using, and he told me that this old bloke used to go down there every year, go down there, pull pups out of this den. So I'm pretty keen, but I don't want to terrorise that spot so that they don't use it as well. So that's why I think I've got to wait till about June, maybe mid-June, before I go and have a look in there to see if I can catch the dog in there with pups. So but I don't want to leave it too late that they leave the den either. So
that's right. It's a hard thing. Yeah, and if you've actually, a lot of the time, if you actually approach that den before the bitch gets there to put in it like better pups in there, she won't use it. Like she'll be able to smell the human scent around there, and she won't use it at all. But sometimes they do. Sometimes, as I said before, if they haven't had a negative interaction with a human, they'll still use it. So, yeah.
And how long will she sit in the den with the pups? Like, what are your thoughts?
They actually move them around quite a bit. So a bitch will have a litter of pups in one area, and she could move them 4 or 5 times by the time that they're sort of old enough to be quite mobile themselves. So she'll move them around to different little locations around. It could be just like under a tussock of grass for a little bit, and then move them on to another spot, and then
And how often are you stumbling across the pups? Like, is that a fairly rare occasion, or with good work you're stumbling across them quite frequently?
Yeah, like that old fella you were just talking about. You usually find out the areas where the pups, the bitches are having pups every year. A lot of the time, if a bitch has pups in one area, a lot of the time she'll come back to that same spot most years.
Yeah,
and you'll find that other bitches, if that bitch has been taken out of that area, another bitch will move in. She'll nearly use the same spots as well. It's just a natural instinct to them. So once you find out those areas, you can sort of go back there most years and find pups in those areas.
Yeah, excellent. Because my brother's also got a property up at 1770, and we went for a walk through there, and I found dog sign all through there, and I found what looked to be some good dog dens. These are like caves. I'm talking about like caves in riverbanks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but obviously hadn't been used because this was like 3 months ago, or maybe even 4 months ago. So I was like, oh man, can't wait to come here when the season's on. They might, because the dogs are there. They're definitely there. It's just a matter of prying them out at the right time. So
yeah, exactly. Yep. But there's a lot to learn about it, and one thing I try and tell everyone is try and learn as much as you can before you physically go out and try and shooting's different, but as far as trapping goes, it's a good idea to try and learn as much as you can before you go out and sort of physically trap areas, because sometimes what you can do is catch a dog and it gets away, or toe catch him or something like that, and it can sort of ruin that area for a little while. They'll always come back to there, but it can sort of get the dogs to move out of that area, and then you sort of, you missed your opportunity.
Well, let's talk about that. Well, first of all, I've heard that that with the new with the offset traps, which is now, just for those that don't know, that means it's got a gap in the where the steel joins. It's about a 5 mil gap. Yeah. So that gap, that's what they call the offset, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Now, in Queensland, we aren't required to have a rubber pad on there, but I know in New South Wales you have to have a rubber pad, but it still has to be offset. But from what I've heard though, since they've introduced the offset, is actually trapping success rate has gone through the roof, because they reckon maybe because the bones aren't breaking and the skin's not being perforated, you can get toe grabs, whereas you couldn't in the past with like the teeth and all that sort of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was, I thought, was quite interesting.
Yeah. So the old style traps that you see, the old style dogger traps with the they've got serrated jaws on them.
Yeah, the bear claw ones.
Yeah, yeah. What they used to do was they'd actually, physically snap the leg and break the skin, and then the dogs would be twisting around in them and obviously just pull their leg off.
Yeah, like that dude that got his arm stuck in the crevice and he chopped it off with a
Yeah,
knife.
yeah. So
they do the same thing, don't they? The will to live's pretty strong. So
absolutely, and you hear about those stories about foxes chewing their own legs off and stuff. They probably 9 times out of 10 didn't actually chew their leg off. They probably just literally broke it off because that was the style of trap that used to be used.
Yeah, and if you do get those old traps, you can modify them into offset traps as well, can't you? They're not gone to waste.
Exactly. And as you said, in Queensland, every state's a little bit different as far as the the conditions of what type of traps and that stuff you can use. But these ones these days, like this one with the offset, the idea is you still get blood flow. So when the dog or the fox or the animal's legs caught in that gap is designed to allow enough blood flow to that area where it's not going to sort of cut off, obviously blood flow and then cause the animal further pain and stress or have the leg fall off. And and also they're designed not to break the skin and stuff like that. Or the bone, So
okay. So you were talking about being patient and all that sort of stuff like that. So because that's one thing I did see in that video was you were talking about essentially scouting, using trail cams, tracking, looking for scrape marks. What's like how long are you doing all that planning before you actively put traps in the ground? Is one day enough or?
Not really. Well, it depends. It depends on, first of all, how long you've got, and how much time you want to put into it. Say, for instance, when we're going to a property, say we get a call from a landowner that's got 6,000 acres and they're having trouble with dogs killing their cows. We'll go out there and the first thing what we do is drive around the whole property with the farmer and find out where they've seen the dogs, where they've had attacks, things like that. And then we'll put cameras in. And we'll leave our cameras in for up to 3 weeks before we actually go back again, suss out the situation again. But sometimes the farmer wants results straight away, which is understandable, that sometimes they've lost 10 or 15 calves, in these properties. So we'll stay out there and just straight away look for sign that day, find out print, where the dogs are traveling and put in traps straight away. And a lot of the time, if you are sort of there when the dogs are there, you'll get results straight away. So the first night sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
But
because they do move around a bit, don't they? Even though they might be hitting that property, they might only be going there once a week or twice a week or something like that. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. It all depends on the size of the pack. It depends on so they have what we call a home range. So the home range will vary, from anywhere from 2 sort of square kilometres to 20 square kilometres. Depends on the size of the pack, the food availability, how many other packs are in the area. There's quite a few variables with that. But what you do, so like any animals, you sort of look for those hot spots where animals will naturally congregate or go to. Dogs in particular, we use things like ridge lines and roadways as intersections.
Yes, I've heard that. Yep.
And they'll use them like a boundary. So they'll go and mark that intersection or that boundary marker. However big their home range is, they'll go back there once a week, once a day, once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you talk about the boundary thing. That's one of the things that I found really interesting is, that they'll get their scat and they'll balance it on top of a tuft of grass. And I was telling my brother about this. It's they'll put it somewhere really prominent. And then we're at his place, and in the riverbed there was these rocks. Now, do you know what a can is? That's like when the tourists make the little stacks of rocks.
Oh, okay. Is that called a can? Is it?
Or a can? Yeah, I think it's called a can. Anyway, there was these couple of where there's just 2 stacks of rocks. and you could see where dogs had put a turd on top and it had rolled off onto the side as it got old and crusted. I said to him, that's what I was talking about. They put it somewhere real prominent. And and sure enough, as we walked like another 50, 100 meters, and there was more like where they would put them on top of big boulders and all this sort of stuff like that. Like, that's amazing. Like, so what do they call it? A visual.
Yeah, a bit of a visual thing. You'll find a lot of the time too is they'll actually put it on the side of the predominant wind direction. So if they're quite amazing. Hey, like say if it's an intersection, a T intersection, and you've got the wind coming that way across the T intersection, the dogs will use this corner to mark.
Yeah, so they want to get the best value from their one piece of scat. Because I guess that's something that people that don't understand dogs might not appreciate is they're not just taking a dump anywhere, are they?
No.
That's valuable material, and
Absolutely.
They're using it to mark their territory.
Yeah.
In prominent locations, they're saving it. Man, they must do huge farts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, they're quite. Yeah, that's why I love doing it so much. It's growing up, you always sort of like hunting and things like that, but for some reason, dogs, I just love the challenge of every dog's different, and you can never just go in and be blasé about it and catch a dog. Well, you can, but I want to be able to catch the smart ones. You know what I mean? So it's quite a challenge. And when you get a dog that has been a challenge for like 2 years, you've been trying to chase this one dog for 2 or 3 years, and you finally get him. It's just the best feeling.
And so, can you tell that it's a particular animal that's evading you, even if you're picking up other dogs at the same time? Is that like?
Yeah, you can sort of. We use a lot of trail cameras, I suppose, which is a bit of a cheap way to do it. But
okay, so you've got like literally images, and you go, okay, that one's got a brown nose or a white tail or something like that, and you're seeing the same animal over and over.
Yeah, but they still sort of have the similar characteristics as well. Like one dog will, for instance, he'll walk along a track and veer off it and then walk along the side of the track for a little while and then get back onto a track or things like that. Or they'll approach your traps a certain way. So you'll see their prints approaching a trap and then they'll skip to the right or to the left, and then they sort of keep those characteristics. So you sort of know, if you haven't got cameras out there, you'll be able to read their sign basically and say, well, that's that same dog.
And so what are the different signs? So you've obviously got the just prints.
Yeah.
I mentioned scrape marks. Now that's, I guess for the people listening or watching, that's the classic when you see a dog like urinate and then they do the back leg scraping on the ground, like the real territorial thing. Now I believe that's a visual sign for other dogs as well. That's not
just inserting their dominance sort of thing. They'll, you'll see a big old dominant male dog do that, but you also see big dominant female dogs do that.
Yeah. And is that something that you would do when you set a trap, is do some fake scrape marks?
Yeah, sometimes I do. It depends what sort of dog you're chasing. So when you go into an area, say if there's 2 dogs in an area, and from your trail camera videos and what the farmer's told you, the way that the dogs are acting, you'll know if they're younger dogs or older dogs a lot of the time. If you're after younger dogs, it's not something that I'll do because it will scare the younger dogs off. Because it's obviously a younger dog comes along, sees that, and he's like, oh, hang on a minute, there's a big old dominant dog in the area, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So,
that's something I actually hadn't thought about at all. I mean, that's probably a whole nother conversation on its own, nearly. I guess,
man, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. Like, I'm still learning. I'm only just cracking the surface of what you sort of have to think about. Yeah.
All right. Well, you've got that trap there. Let's talk about some of the construction and like what you maybe look for in a trap or all that sort of stuff like that. I only know a couple of the terms like the pan. I know the night latch, and that's about it.
So these particular traps are what we call a dogless trap. So basically they've got the pan, as you were talking about, which is this part.
That's the bit that people step on, or that the dog steps on.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You hope that people don't step on it. So yeah, obviously that has to go down for the jaws to close.
Now, I believe the dog is the old school trap, like on a mouse trap. That's the bit that goes over the bit that
holds the jaw down.
Holds the jaw down. So
yeah.
a dogless one doesn't have that pin that going over. It's
no, that's
well,
right.
It has
so
that night latch. So
yeah, so it's a bit hard to see on here, but basically there's a section under the jaws of these ones that this little part here clips onto when you've got the jaw folded down, and that actually
okay. So there's
holds
there's a tab sticking out from that jaw at the bottom, at the top there. I can see the tab.
Yeah.
And that on the pan that clicks onto the that tab. Yeah.
Yeah, that clips onto that section.
And so that on the pan there, on that bit, that's got the night latch on it. Do you want to tell us what the night latch does?
So the night latch is just like a little groove that's cut out along here. And basically all that's for is to lessen the trigger movement before the trap will set off.
Now, I believe you're supposed to have it on full latch while you're like digging it in and all that sort of stuff, and then you try and set it to the night latch before you bury it under. But
when you're first starting,
I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
every time I tried to set the night trap, it just jump up out the ground and shoot dirt in my face. And everything.
Yeah. Once again, there's we could sit here forever talking about how to set your traps up, but there's a thing called so this one is very loose. It's what we call pan tension.
Yep.
So I always have my traps set depending on the time of year, but majority of the time of year I'll have my trap set so it takes 5 pounds of downward pressure before my trap will go off.
Now, how do you measure that? Do you get a 5 pound sinker and drop it on there, or?
Yeah, so you can get like a 4.5 pound hammer or something like that, and sit on your pan, and then if it doesn't go off, your traps are about right, and then if you put the tiniest bit of pressure down, it'll go off. That means it's around about the right weight. But you can get a thing called a Sullivan pan tester, which I had in my bag.
Yeah, I saw that
the other day. So I've got another video as well. I think it's called Predator Trap Maintenance or something like that, which sort of explains and shows you how to use those sorts of things as well.
Okay.
But yeah, basically it's like a stick with a spring inside of it, and it's got like lines per pound. So
okay. So it's kind of like a torque wrench or something, like as you go down and you can see how far down it goes before it goes off, and that lets you know what it is. So what else is on the trap there? What's because there's like Jake traps, I know, is a favourite brand, and
So these traps here, these have just been sitting out in the shed. I've got to boil them up again, but these ones are actually brand new. These are called Canine Extreme traps.
So they are US one.
Yeah, they are. I got these.
I guess just for those listening, that a lot of them come from the US because the coyote trapping is huge. So a lot of the stuff we use is based on coyote trapping equipment.
Yeah. So these are basically very similar to what they call a WTS or a Dogless Bridger number 3.
Yep.
The only difference with them, and I just got a few of these to trial because they're a reasonable. Well, I've never seen them before. I believe they have been around for a while. You can get them pretty regularly now. But they're basically a heavy-duty model of the WTS number 3 or the Bridger number 3 Dogless.
Now, number 3 determines the size, isn't it? That's like
yeah. So that's a number 3, whereas this one here, that's a number 5.
Yeah. So I think I got number 5s.
Yeah. So this is a WTS number 5. So this is once again a Dogless trap. So
and that's got the rubber jaws on it, doesn't it? That one.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And do you like the rubber jaws?
Not as much as I used to. I really liked them when I first started using them, but now I just find that there's way too much maintenance.
That's what I got told. Yep.
Every time you catch a dog, they chew the crap out of all the rubbers, and you've got to replace the rubbers basically. Yeah. So it's an extra little bit that you have to do.
And obviously, if you want to reset them, you don't want to have to handle it too much.
Yeah.
And all
that's
that.
Right. That's right. So if you when you catch a dog on these, the dog chews all the rubber off or half the rubber out. You've got to reset it. You lost half your rubber, so you do have that chance of, you know, the rest of the rubber might fall away, which you might lose your dog, but it's very unlikely. But it can happen. So that's a WTS number 5, which is a bit bigger. These ones are a little bit bigger than the WTS number 3, but as I said, they're just more heavy duty, so all the steel and everything's a bit thicker in it. But yeah, they're probably my go-to trap now. There's an old trap style called a Jake trap, which is you probably would have heard of. It's a very good, solid, strong, fast trap.
I don't believe they're getting made anymore. Is that true? The guy passed away or something like that?
Yeah.
So if you can get it, second-hand ones are worth a fortune, I believe.
Yeah. I've got quite a few of them still, which I still use, and I love them. But because they're not getting made anymore, I was sort of looking for something to go to, and I think these are going to be the one that I'll go to.
And you said it's a heavier build. Are they prone to bending and breaking under use, or not really?
So the Dogless number 3s that I've had, I actually sold all of mine probably 12 months ago or 8 months ago now, only because I got these, and the Dogless number 3s were great traps, but I just found that after a little while, the pans in them start to get a little bit weak, and there's a little section here what's cut out. See that section's cut out? Oh
yeah, looks like it would be prone to cracking across there, maybe.
Yeah, none of mine were, but I could just see that part would be a sort of a weak part in the trap. So these pans are quite a lot thicker than the Bridger 3s or the
and that is a replaceable part. The pan, you can get
it is
new parts for them.
Yeah, but also the base plate, this section here, what we call the base plate, is a lot thicker. The bolts, they're actually bolted on, whereas the other traps are just folded through or bent.
Oh yeah, and there's like a little T-bit on there or something like that.
Yeah. So these are just they look to me like they'll be a really good trap for a lot longer. Basically, they just look a bit heavier duty. And then on the bottom of them, we've got like what's called a swivel, a crunch-proof swivel. So basically,
that doesn't look. Is that welded? The bit attached to the swivel?
Not
because it's still brand
new. These have just been sitting in the shed. I did boil them once, but what I tend to do is, so when I get a new trap, we're going sort of off track a little bit, but when I get a new trap, I'll wash them with like soapy water.
Degreaser, get the oil off them. Because they're covered in packing grease and all that sort of stuff to make them not rust.
Yeah. So then I'll boil them up, and then I'll leave them in the shed for a few weeks or a couple of weeks usually.
Yep.
And then I'll boil them and wax them, and then leave them sit for a little bit longer, and just till they get a film of, like, these are ready to go again. They've just got a good film of rust over them now.
Yeah, light surface rust is what that's what you guys are looking for, to give it a bit of a porous surface for the wax to stick to and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and so also I use trap dye as well. Sorry, mate.
Oh, you do use trap dye? Just the logwood, or you've got your own?
Logwood or whatever's available. So as you were talking about, any sort of leaves, like a bloodwood tree, the sap out of a bloodwood tree or the leaves out of a bloodwood tree work really well as well.
Yep.
So you just put them in the water when you're boiling your traps up, and that'll sort of naturally stain your trap.
What's your? Oh yeah, go. No, you're right.
The reason behind actually staining the traps, I don't really know, because they're in the ground anyway, and there's always different opinions on why people do certain things. I just do it because that's the way I've been taught. If you get a really strong wind, sometimes, a little bit of the soil can be blown off the jaw of your trap or something like that. So it does help to camouflage it a little bit, but a dog's going to notice it anyway. So, as far as the dyeing your traps go, I don't know how, successful that is, but I do it, as I say in a lot of my videos, I want to give myself the best possible chance to catch every dog, not just any dog, you know.
Well, what's interesting is when I did dye mine, they definitely came out much blacker. I mean, they went in, they were like a blue silver color, and they come out quite black in comparison. I was actually quite impressed with that.
Yeah.
And so when you wax them, are you just doing the trick of floating the wax on top of your boiling water, or have you got a whole tub of wax on its own?
No, I don't use the whole tub. I just use the wax on top of the water and just pull the traps up through the wax.
Nice and slowly,
Yeah. And I find that gets a good enough cover of wax on them. And basically, once again, the wax to me is just to, a lot of the time, just to prolong the traps and keep them firing fast, and also preserve the steel. There's lots of different opinions on why it's done and why it's not done and things like that, you know, but I just find that your traps will last a lot longer being preserved a little bit.
It makes you wonder if that's just something like old man Jake that makes Jake traps. He's like, yeah, you got to wax your traps and that's it. Everyone wax their traps after that.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Because there's some fellas that just put a brand new trap in the ground and catch dogs as well, you know. So, all these things are sort of personal preference. Yeah. But,
well, I guess it does, and that's what I, you know, from all the conversations I have had with a few people, is like, you know, if you're trapping dogs in a junkyard, well, you don't even have to bury the trap, you know. But if you're trapping out in the bush where no one's been for 6 weeks, then you've got to cover every trace that you've been there.
Yeah.
You know, all but rake your tire tracks on the way out.
Yeah.
So,
no, I try and camouflage my traps the best as I can, no matter where I'm trapping. It's just what I do, you know, and as I said, it's just sort of what I've had success with. So
when you do put your traps in the ground, you set in the night latch and just going for gold after that, or you set the night latch when you're nearly finished?
No, I'll set the night latch when I put them in the ground, and then put them in the ground.
Yeah, because that's what I found I end up having to do.
Around. Yeah.
So I just, and of course I had like little sticks in there to try and tuck the baking paper in and all that. Like
you get sort of, obviously the more you do it, you'll get better at it. You know, I'm more confident around it and stuff like that. You can get a little bit too confident. Touch wood, I haven't actually caught my hands in a trap yet, but I know lots of people that have. So
I could see how quickly that could happen. Like, you know, you set like a couple of traps. Oh yeah, you can touch that. No, bang. Next thing, fingers caught in the trap, and then you've got to somehow try and, you know, you probably caught both hands, and then you've got to use your feet to try and open it up.
Absolutely. It's quite funny watching people try and do that.
and, you know, I'll be honest, like at the moment, I've been having to like put my hand up against the tree to try and put my feet on both sides of the trap to, like, it's quite a balancing act.
Yeah.
Now
you get used to it. Like, I can set them with my hands now, so.
Oh, wow.
Most of them. These big number 5s are quite hard to do, but you can get them. But, I like to make sure my pan tension is set right before I go and set the traps as well. Every time I'll get a trap out to put it in the ground, I'll test the pan tension before I even look at setting it.
And so that tension, is that set mostly with those side bolts, is it?
So on these, you just tighten or loosen those.
Yeah.
That one's the same. So that's just got a lock nut on it.
And boiling them doesn't affect that lock nut. That was a question I had, actually.
So boiling traps, you know, year after year or month after month can affect a lot of things in them. It'll affect the springs in them. So you got to make sure you don't boil them for too long. And I have gone to respringing my traps every 12 months now, putting new springs through them. Only because I've had one dog actually pull out of a trap, and I had him on video. He was caught proper, like up above the pad where they're meant to be caught.
Yeah, so above the ankle bone, basically.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, it's just above the pad.
Yeah.
So you'll see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was caught well and good, and it actually pulled straight out on video. And that's when I prompted me to sort of check them all out, and that was what I just felt, because you set them with your hands, you can actually feel the strength of the trap. And I was feeling that my new traps compared to my old traps were quite soft now. So
now I've heard that filming the trapping location can reduce success rate significantly. Have you found that, or not to be the case?
I never put the camera right in the vision of the dog. I try and put it off to the side a little bit where, the dog hopefully isn't going to see it too much, because it can, yeah, absolutely. Especially.
Well, you're talking about you've set up the camera like a couple of weeks before,
yeah,
and then you just leave it there rather than contaminate the area, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
And then set the traps there.
Yeah, and certain cameras, I don't care what people say, but certain cameras definitely make certain noises or give off certain frequencies, and animals can actually hear them or see them. They definitely smell them as well, so they'll smell that the human's been there, and they can smell the plastic on the cameras and things like that.
Mate, you open a box and those things stink half the time, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the plastic's quite fumey.
Yeah. So, I definitely don't put them right in an area where I've got a hard dog that I've been trying to catch for a while. But definitely, I like to put cameras over traps just to see how I'm going. Basically, it teaches you so much, especially when you've got them on video. You quickly learn the things that you're doing right and the things that you're doing wrong. So
I've watched some videos, and just sometimes just the sheer number of animals coming through in one evening is just incredible. Like that's what really surprising. Like Dog Runner on YouTube, like he's put a camera on this stump or this like a big log falling across a creek thing. Yeah, man, just in one night, I think I saw like 11 different dogs come across the log. Like just insane. Like you just wouldn't think that it would hold up that sort of volume of animals.
Yeah, it's amazing. Incredible. Yeah, they're worth their weight in gold, cameras.
Yeah, I've got one Aldi one, but I set it up on my brother's property to try and see if I could see some dogs. Yeah. And I haven't been able to go get it because of the coronavirus restrictions.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Anyway, I'll have to get some more. Apparently the King's ones aren't too bad. So.
Okay. Yep.
I'm keen to get a couple of them. I think they're only about 120, 130 bucks. They don't have SD cards or anything like that. You've got to go. Sorry, don't have SIM cards, so you can't use your mobile phone to get it.
Yeah.
Better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the trapping terms. That's I guess, and maybe the trap types. Like I heard in your video, you talk about a whole trap,
a whole set,
a whole set. Sorry,
sets,
yeah, and all that sort of stuff like that. So often you hear people talk about a trapping line.
Yeah.
What does all that mean? I guess.
Yeah, so it's basically it's just the different types of sets that you put in the ground. So there's once again there's probably we probably don't have enough battery on the computers to go through it all, but there's different types of sets. So there's scent post sets, there's flat sets, there's hole sets, there's trail sets, blind sets, walkthrough sets. So there's all different types of situations where you put your trap and different sort of locations where you put traps. And once again, that all depends on the activity and the way that the dogs are acting in that area, and also what you've done leading up to that time as well. Like as I said, we use a lot of cameras, so we can sort of evaluate how many dogs are in an area, if they're old dogs, if they're young dogs, so that'll sort of give you an idea of what type of set you're going to put in.
Yeah, okay. So a hole set is just like literally in some kind of hole, is that?
Yeah, so basically the idea behind a hole set is to mimic a rabbit or some sort of rodent or a bandicoot or something digging a hole into the ground. And it's a bit of a visual lure as well. So a dog will naturally sort of check those holes to see if there's any animals in there that they can eat.
Okay, so and that would be similar to like a post set where you would set the trap like 40 centimeters back off the hole type thing as well. Is that?
Yeah. I sort of don't really use that one as much. I haven't probably seen it as much. But
I only heard it on the video when you're speaking to that coyote guy.
Oh yeah. So the whole set once again, it's different for, like, I'll use a lot of whole sets for foxes.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Or young dogs, whereas I haven't had a lot of success on a whole set with older dogs for some reason.
Yeah,
Same
and then
as,
obviously you can't use like a trail set where there's kangaroos going through and all that sort of stuff like that, which is where the camera comes into play there.
Yeah, a camera and just sort of reading your pads and stuff like that to make sure, you know, it's like a scent post set. A lot of the time dogs will, you know, urinate on trees and things like that, where you could possibly put a trap on, but you've just got to make sure that there's no koalas or possums and things like that using that tree as well.
Yeah.
Before you go and put a set there, but that would be like a scent post set where a dog would naturally urinate on or mark their territory on.
Yeah.
Then there's like a flat set, which is you just basically use any sort of backing, what we call backing. So you want, whenever you're setting a trap, you imagine this is a tussock on the side of a track.
Yep.
You want to use what we call backing. So the idea of that is you put your trap in front of it.
Yep.
So then when the dog approaches it, he can't approach from this side. So you want to put your lure at the base of that backing.
Yeah. So that they always approach the backing from the front.
Yeah.
So essentially you need them to walk into the trap.
Yeah.
As they go and just sniff the item. And I guess that's something I didn't understand when I first was looking at it. I thought that you caught them on the back leg. So they walked up and they stood there to cock their leg and they stand in the trap with their back leg.
Yeah.
I never realised that it was like that. They stand with their front foot as they leaned in to sniff the tree. And so when I've seen all these front leg traps, I was going, oh man, they keep accidentally getting the wrong leg.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
you know, it's a lot better to catch a dog on the front leg. Sometimes you do accidentally catch them on the back leg. But they have a lot more chance of like pulling loose when they're caught by the back leg. Yeah, they've got a lot more leverage.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's quickly touch on shooting dogs.
Yeah.
What's the best gun? The best caliber?
Oh, mate, I don't really know, to be honest. There's, you know, I'm not really much of a gun nut, so to speak. I've got 3 guns that I just use, and that's all I use. So I use a 22 for when I'm just shooting rabbits or something like that to harvest for the meat. I'll use a 22 Magnum for dogs in a trap.
Okay, yep.
And then most of the time I carry just a 22 250, which is my favourite gun.
Well, that's what I believed was the go-to dog gun was the 22 250. So I'm not surprised you said that, but
yeah, no, I just got an old 22 250 that I bought years ago that I've just always loved. It's just a synthetic stock gun, you know, cheapo, that I just carry around with me everywhere I go. It comes with me. It doesn't matter if I scratch it up. I just make sure it's inside, obviously.
And what, you got a 3 to 9 times on the top, or? Yeah,
just a stand. It's actually a good scope. That is one thing I do spend a bit of. So it's a Leopold scope.
Yep.
Because one thing with shooting dogs is you don't want to miss or hit the dog badly. You know, once again, it just comes down to ethical things. I'm a big believer in shoot when you're 100% confident you're going to kill the dog first shot. Yeah. So I make sure that all my guns are, you know, in sight and
spot on,
shooting straight. Yeah.
And so you got a large objective on the front of that scope, or is it just a normal sort of 40 mil, or you're not sure?
Yeah, just a normal 40 mil. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not shooting in much low light then? It's mostly
not really. Daylight. Yeah, the when we're howling, so it'll be fairly low light, but once again, when they're calling dogs, if you're in a good spot, as long as the wind's right, you can get them in pretty close. You can get them close enough, you know. I don't shoot anything sort of over 200 yards. I'll make sure that they're closer than that before I even attempt to shoot them. As I said, I'm not sort of out there to sort of try and prove anything. I'm just trying to get a job done. So
yeah. So when you are shooting them and howling them in, are you better off on the ridges or down in the valleys, or is it a bit of everything?
Bit of everything, but a lot of the time, once again, the old fellas sort of that I learn off used to say that obviously dogs, when they're hunting, they'll be down on the flats. So overnight they'll be down on the flats. So if you're calling in the morning, you should be up in the hill or on a ridge.
Yes. Okay.
If you're calling overnight, you should be down in the flats because that's where the dog's naturally going to be travelling anyway. So of an afternoon, they'll be travelling back up into the hill. So that's where you call from.
Yep.
And of a morning, you're down in the flats. So yeah.
So they're camping up in the hills in the night.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So when you hear them howling at night, carrying on and all that, is that just the young ones misbehaving, or is that them trying to lure things in as well? Or?
Yeah, a bit of everything. They communicate as well, so they'll communicate between packs as well, just to find out, if a pack's in the area. They'll do a few calls just to see how many other dogs are around. Like, once again, there's different types of howls as well. So they'll be like a playful howl where they're only mucking around and calling out, or often you'll hear them calling out to like an ambulance or an aeroplane and things like that, because that's just a natural instinct for them. They think that's another dog howling, so they'll have a howl back.
No, well, that's the guy that took me out. His howl sounded a lot like an ambulance. He goes, I've been told it sounds like an ambulance. He goes, but it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So do you use electronic callers at all, or just...
I haven't had a lot of experience with electronic callers. Trent's got one and he swears by it, but I like the fact that I can actually call a dog with my own voice, and I think it's a bit of an art, and you get much more of a thrill out of it. Well, I do anyway.
Of course. So are you sort of putting the hands up to your mouth and calling out, or have you got like a megaphone or something?
Yeah, no, I tried. I actually got an old buffalo horn that I used to call through. Yeah. And it does definitely give you a bit of a different tone. Yeah. But lumping all this gear around, sometimes you walk for 2 or 3 kilometres before you find a decent spot. So I just carry my gun and just use my hands, yeah.
Okay, so when you say a decent spot, you like of an afternoon, you're up on the ridge trying to call them up out. And so obviously you're just trying to get in the position.
Other way around. So of an afternoon, you're down in the gullies.
Down in the, in the gully.
Yeah.
And so you just try and get in a position where obviously you're downwind of wherever you think they are.
Yeah.
And you'll try and get just the best visibility of them coming in from anywhere.
Yeah, and a bit of a open area between you and where you think they might come out of, just so you get the best possible chance to get a shot on them. Yeah. Like I've been in an area where the dogs have been, 10 metres away from me and I can't see them. They're howling, but you physically can't see them. So, and what they do then is a dog will all the time chase the wind to try and catch your wind before he approaches too closely. If he can't see whatever he's hearing, he'll swing around. So you've lost him 9 times out of 10. So you just got to have a bit of an area where you can physically see them before they come in too close.
And are you full camoed up doing this?
Yeah, so I've just got it's sort of like a leafy top that I put on. Once again, everyone's got their own sort of way of doing it. Like I'm more, sometimes I'll just use that as like a bit of a blind in front of me as well.
Okay,
and have some sort of backing behind me. I used to try and sort of get behind stuff, but then I was finding that I was going to shoot something and there'd be something in my way, like a branch or a bit of lantana or something in my way. So now I actually sit in front of that and just use my thing as a bit of a blind with that behind me, with a bush or something behind me.
Yeah, well, that's what the big one I heard is you've got to break your silhouette.
Yeah.
Like sitting on top of a ridge, just a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Always come in just down off the ridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so you prefer shooting them of an evening as opposed to in the morning? Is there a specific, you just can't get up in the morning?
No, it's not that. I think I personally like the morning a bit better because you've got a bigger window of time frame of when, dogs will be traveling around. So dogs, 9 times out of 10 will travel, a lot more just after daylight through to sort of 10 o'clock. And you've just got that couple more hours. Whereas overnight, you've only got that shorter window of until you can't see anymore,
Okay. Oh, yeah, of course.
So basically, so the morning, I just prefer the morning a bit more because it's sort of, you get those couple more hours.
Yeah, okay. And so then So when you say the morning, what are you hunting up to like 9:30?
Yeah,
Maybe 10 o'clock or
10 o'clock, something like that. Yeah,
and then go setting your traps.
Yeah, so yeah, going back to that. That was the reason why we would howl of an afternoon, because first thing in the morning we'd be out checking traps, or setting traps.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'd be howling in the afternoon. Yeah.
Well, because obviously you want to try and do most of that in the cool of the day as well, as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly, and it's better for the dogs, if you get there first thing in the morning. A lot of
get them
time
out of the heat and that. Yep.
Yeah.
So are they mostly on the move at night? Is that when you find that they're
mainly
doing most of their stuff? So they're camped down during the day?
Yeah, a lot of the time. A lot of the time, if it's overcast, showery days, they'll be travelling around as well. And sometimes you'll just see out of the blue a dog travelling through the heat of the day as well. But once again, there's so many variables to it. There's never a real set rule, but most of the time they are normally travelling around overnight. They're hunting overnight, and then sleeping through the day.
Yeah, okay. So have you had much success like walking up on them, sleeping during the day, or it's like not really a thing that can be done? I mean, because the one that I came across the first wild dog I've ever seen, the only one I've ever seen at this point was sleeping behind a water trough. I've never seen something move so quick in my life. It was faster than an emu. It was so quick.
That's the problem with trying to walk up on them. By the time you see them, it's usually too late. They're gone, and they're so fast. Like I've definitely walked up on a couple of dogs, like stalking deer and pigs and stuff like that. Walked up and there's been a dog there, but by the time you sort of get out ready to shot, they're gone. So, yeah, definitely. I just find it easier if I can see them coming towards me rather than trying to sneak up on them.
Yeah, because obviously you've got the time to prepare yourself. Well, you're ready before they are, as opposed to them being ready before you are.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the ultimate goal.
Yeah, exactly. And same spotlighting. Like I've had mixed results with people spotlighting and stuff as well, like being spotlighting for other pigs or something and then come across a dog and being able to shoot it. A lot of the time I've found you try and spotlight and dogs will hear you for miles and just clear off, or see the light or whatever themselves and just move off. But that's why, once again, why I enjoy doing it, because they're always different.
What would you enjoy more? Do you enjoy getting one in a trap, or you enjoy howling one in?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Or is that like saying, do you prefer a hot pizza versus a cold pizza? It's just a different type of pizza.
Yeah, it is. It is. I have to say, like, being able to catch it, like, just for instance, even if you're on a 10-acre property, to be able to get a dog to put its foot on something about that big in 10 acres, it takes a bit of skill. So that
to put something that big on a dog's probably pretty good skill too.
Exactly. But the feeling that you get when you catch a dog in a trap is pretty good feeling. But being able to howl a dog in with your own voice and being able to shoot it is probably my favourite.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I went out the last time I went hunting just after Christmas. Went out to Burke. This was on that place that the guy got all those dogs, and we were just like randomly walking through the bush. And I remember standing there and I looked down and there was like this little tiny old school beer bottle cap, and I just thought, what's the chances of me jumping off my bike, standing here looking down and seeing that?
Yeah.
And I guess it's the same thing to get a dog in all that country to put its foot on a little tiny thing is almost near impossible. Not when obviously the whole idea is to get them in with a lure and all that still, but there's so many variables to make that happen. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it happens a bit. You'll do everything right, 100% right, and the dog will come in the way you wanted it to, and it'll step this far away from your pan.
Because you see the print.
Yeah, and you don't catch it. You just think, so close, but yeah.
Okay, well, what would you say is easier, do you think? If, say, me, new guy, do you think it's more likely I can howl one in and shoot it, or trap it?
I think I think during the breeding season or leading up to Christmas, you're definitely more, you've got more chance of howling or calling a dog in, especially with the electronic callers, than trapping a dog. But once again, there's lots of silly young dogs around that just will go for any sort of smell and just tread all around until they eventually put their foot in the trap as well.
Yeah, okay. That'll be interesting to see if I can howl one before I trap one. That's
yeah.
It's going to be. And how many traps are you sort of putting in? I mean, obviously it's very property dependent, but
yeah,
is it sort of the more the better, or?
No, not really. It's being able to find the right spots, and once again, it depends on the amount of dogs in an area. Like I've never been worked on an area where there's been more than 10 dogs in one area, you know, where I've been working.
Yeah.
Because that's what we find on the cameras, you know. So really, you probably only need 10 traps. But we would put, like in that case, we'll probably put 50 traps out, you know.
Okay,
So,
well, let's give us your best trapping story. I want either, I don't know, whether it's the most dogs you pulled off of a single set,
yep.
or the most dogs you pulled out of a week, or just the funniest trapping story. Like, give me one or two of your favorite trapping moments. And it could be unsuccessful. That doesn't bother me. I think that's
yeah. Probably. The best, like my most memorable trapping experiences was when Trent and I first started out. You know, and just trying to make a bit of a name for yourself and things like that. We had a farmer approach us, and he was basically, you know, a pretty big, strong, tough farming guy. And he was nearly in tears about these dogs coming in and eating these 600 kilo heifers, you know, like fully grown heifers.
Yeah.
And he basically come to us and said straight out, if you can't do anything about it, I'm going to get out of cattle. I've tried everything, you know. And we're able to go in there and successfully trap these pack of dogs. I think we end up catching 5 or 6 or something like that, and basically fixed his problem, you know. And that was probably the most, you know, memorable one for me. That it was over a couple of weeks, but we eventually got the main pack of the dogs and fixed his problem, you know. And that was a bloke that was going to totally get out of cattle. So,
well, it's funny you say that, because I sort of called my brand is called Black Dog Trapping.
Oh yeah.
So, and I don't know if you know, but black dog is a term used for depression.
Yeah.
And so that was what I'd heard, was that, you know, that the wild dogs were causing huge amounts of depression with the sheep farmers and that. So it's kind of the name I come up with was a bit of a two-edged sword, as like stop depression and stop the dogs.
Yeah. So, no, it could make sense, because they do. It's and once again, the people that don't understand should read stories about, you know, that sort of effect that dogs have on farmers, you know. Like I've been in areas where farmers haven't been able to even have, like they tried having cattle or tried having sheep, to start off with. Dogs decimated the sheep, so they couldn't have sheep, so they went to cattle. The dogs decimated the cattle, so they went to, you know, have cropping or something and just having a family pet, and then the dogs would come in and smash their family pets, you know.
Well, I think that's something that people don't appreciate too either. Like if you go out St. George, it's nearly all cattle country, because they can't keep sheep because the dogs are just too thick and too strong.
Yeah.
The other thing people probably don't appreciate is the dogs just kill for fun.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
do literally get stuck into it, and you know, you hear stories of people losing like 13 sheep to one dog in one night, and they're not getting eaten; they're just getting killed.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That's what they do. They'll attack something like a sheep or a calf or even a cow, until it's no more fun, until it stops moving, and then they'll move on to the next one, you know, because there's no more fun in that. So they just move on to the next one. So yeah, it's devastating, and it really is, you know, it's heartbreaking when you go onto farms like that have lost, you know, a big part of their livelihood because of these dogs that have come in and just decimated them, you know.
And what do you think's the biggest contributor to the wild dogs? Do you think it's people letting pets go, or is it just literally just a number of dingoes and hybrids that are just keep breeding on and on and on, or do you think there is numbers getting pushed in from human populations?
To be honest, I don't really know. I don't know if it is because of people letting their dogs go. It might have been originally a big factor in it, but these days, from my experience, I'll find that people have let their dogs go, or dogs have gotten away, and 9 times out of 10 we'll find them dead because the wild dogs will kill them.
Okay, so it's not like you're out there finding, Great Danes or leftover pig dogs. They're literally all, red dogs or red dog variants.
Yeah. The majority of them have got dingo in their bloodlines.
Yeah.
Okay. Every now and then you'll find a pig dog type dog that's still running around with a pack of wild dogs or something like that, but it's very rare to find that.
Not with the chest plate still on it.
No. I've never, touch wood, never actually seen that. But definitely, some pig dogs that have been running wild for a couple of years that were causing massive problems on farms that we found. So and you could tell that they were running wild for a couple of years just by their whole
mannerism
and the condition that they were in, and it's they're pretty scary animals when they get like that. That's for sure. They basically revert back to the wild dog. Yeah. So
well, that's I think I saw this fantastic. I saw this thing on YouTube that they got some dingoes, some purebred dingoes. They bred them in pens, fed them just dog food, and they grew this pup up, and it had never seen kangaroos, never seen anything. And then they took that pup when it was a grown dog, and they went and placed it in this sanctuary in like South Australia or something where there's like kangaroos and all that, to try and put this dog back in there. And that's it. Within 45 minutes, it ran down a kangaroo and killed it.
Yeah.
That's like people don't understand that. That's the instinct of these animals, is just to do that. Something
and it's no different.
They got to chase it.
It's no different to domestic dogs, like they've just got that natural instinct to chase things as well. So that's why they chase balls. That's their natural instinct coming out in them. They're hunting something down for their pack leader, basically, and bringing it back to them. It's no different to a wild dog killing something for their pack leader. So
what is that you've got hanging beside you on the other side? Yeah. Is that a wind chime or something?
Yeah. My wife's very artistic, so that's actually made out of some sort of bones.
I was going to say, it looks like literally slivers of bones, like big cow bone or something.
They're out of some sort of backbone, slivers of backbone, that one there. Yeah, there's also, this, just have a bit of a look. Look up look at the roof. Like,
oh, wow.
They're all umbrellas. Yeah,
she's got a fair bit going on there.
Yeah.
What a little pleasurable space, though, to be in. Is that what it is? Yeah. Do you do any reloading, or you just buy factories?
My stepfather actually reloads all my stuff for me, which is very good. Yeah, he's very good at it. He does a lot of shooting too, so yeah, he does that. So I just, every time I'm down there, I'll just take my empties down and
he tops them up for you.
Tops them up. Yeah, it's pretty good like that. Works well.
Good little system.
Yeah. And as I said, like I'm not a gun nut, so I just use whatever he's using at the time, and whatever says he's saying that's working for him, I'll just use it and make sure it's shooting straight and go from there.
Yeah, just do a bit of a recite and go for gold.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that's we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you wanted to say or anything like that before we
Not really, mate. No, I think we've sort of covered a lot of things, touched on a lot of things anyway.
I don't think. I think there's too many things I want to know. So it's like I just kind of trying to get a little taste of everything. But I guess it's been good. So
yeah, but definitely if you're interested in coming out, or spending a bit of time together and I can help you out a bit more, just let me know. I'd be keen.
Yeah, mate, I'd love to come and tag along and just like watch over your shoulder.
Yeah.
I scent all over your traps. And
The hardest bit is obviously, a lot of properties with insurance and things like that. But
yeah,
I've got some pretty good mates with a bit of ground, and we can sort of, work on. So yeah, definitely. I'm all for sort of. That's one thing I think. A lot more people should be giving, helping other people with their knowledge rather than what it used to be. When I was first starting out, as a kid trying to learn about it, it was very hard to get someone to show you, because it was almost like a secret. It's all your little tricks and that's it. So I'm all for trying to help as many people as I can, doing it the right way rather than just giving them a trap and saying, there you go and put it in.
Well, and because at the end of the day, I think, we talked briefly over the phone, is that if someone unsuccessfully traps a dog, it makes it much harder to catch it again later. And that's what you're about, making sure it gets done right the first time.
That's right. Exactly.
All right, Chris, I think we'll wrap it up there. Now, I normally say at the end of my videos, I say, I always tell them, make sure that they hit the big subscribe button in the middle here, or there's also that little one down the corner that's there in the whole video. And make sure they smash that knockout bell so they get notified of the next video, and give us a big thumbs up. And if you've got any questions, hit us below. And then I say something like, get them big boars, get out there, have fun, get in the sun. And until next time, catch you later. What do you want to say to the viewers and to the listeners?
Yeah, check us out on YouTube. If you've got any other questions or anything, put them in the comments, and I'll be happy, as I said, to help as many people out as I can. So,
and it's what's the channel called? It's a Dogger's Life.
It's a Dogger's Life on YouTube. Yeah.
Yep. And are you on Facebook and Instagram as well?
Yeah, on Facebook, just under Chris Booby. I have got It's a Dogger's Life channel, whatever it's called, on Facebook as well, or page that I've just started going, sort of being a little bit more active with. It's not something that I've all been right into because of the time that it takes, to do all that sort of social media stuff. It sort of takes your time away from when you are at home, away from you a little bit.
Yeah, like I've done to you tonight, taking you 2 hours.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. It's only once, but yeah, I just found, you're sitting down and having a bit of quality time, and as soon as someone walked out of the room, you jump onto social media and scroll through, So I just try not to do that as much, but I'm trying to be a little bit more active these days, just to be able to help a few more people out. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. I've tried to put my phone down a bit more in the last couple of months, so because it's very easy at the moment with this coronavirus, being at home, to be just like on the phone the whole time. But
yeah,
it's
I've got a little bit of an excuse at the moment because I've got some pig traps set, so I've got the SMS camera set up on them.
It didn't send you any messages while we've been talking, did it?
It did. It sent me one, but that was the outside camera. It was just a cow walking past, I think. So
no,
it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, so you got to monitor that. So you sort of have to have your phone on you a little bit. But there's a pig there. There's one pig there. Yeah, they haven't gone in yet. But yeah, but that's.
So is that a remote set trap? Is it like you can push the button on it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
All right. No, okay, thanks very much for your time, Chris. Really appreciate it. And like I said, until next time, I'll catch you later, and have a good one.
Thank you very much.